Okay, so we're going to try this again, buddy. I think we're good. The video was picking up the sounds. Good boy. Let's get back just a little bit more. Right there. Good stuff right there. Okay. Hello everyone. Justin Dunn here, American Mustang School. And I'm here with one of my horses, Maverick. And Maverick is a really cool horse to explain what this video is about, which is the law of vibration and how that plays in horsemanship. I try not to repeat too many things over and over in these videos, but I do want you to be aware that they interconnect. So the first one being law of divine oneness. Everything is connected. Everything is one. We wouldn't have the uniqueness that we have without that understanding. He's an individual, I'm an individual, we're unique. However, we are one, we are connected. There is a causation between us. And I'll explain that in these videos, hopefully better as we continue. Everything vibrates. So in that law of vibration, to really understand it, for me, practice horsemanship to really understand it. Vibration is measurable. So it's energy, it's measurable. We can have a positive high vibration, negative low vibration, and thoughts and feelings can kind of come into that, definitely come into that. So the thoughts and emotions, an emotion you feel based on a thought you have. I talk about that in my book, The Four Things: thoughts, emotions, which is an internal pathway, it's communication, attitude, action, the reflection in the body of what we were thinking and feeling. As an outer pathway, attitude and action, outer pathway. So I can tell you, based on this horse, his attitude and actions reflect what he's thinking and feeling. Well, it works that way for me too. We can change our vibration. So to give you an understanding, when I introduce myself to a horse, I want to be consciously aware of what I'm thinking and feeling, what my attitude is, and ultimately my action. Because I'm trying to present myself, the human, to the horse. And to do that effectively and efficiently, I've got to develop an awareness. How am I thinking? How am I feeling? Vibration. What am I sending? What is he receiving in that transmission of energy? Vibration. To keep it simple, I'm going to start explaining it in the simplest form that I can. When I introduce myself to a horse, I want to pay attention to what I'm thinking and feeling, the internal pathway, because it's going to have an effect on what he's thinking and what he's feeling. In his brain, thinking, his heart, feeling. I want those connected. I want to free up restrictions in the mind. No confusion, no doubt, no fear. That could be a negative thought which causes restriction in the body. Heart rate, expansion and contraction of the heart. That's a vibration that changes in frequency. Higher rates of beating, lower rates of beating. The brain is monitoring that heart, the body systems, lungs, expanding, contraction, measurable vibration, different. Those are things that the body, the brain, in the body is monitoring. What can we have as far as an effect on that? So we'll talk about cause and effect, but what can we have in an understanding that will have an effect on that? Is whatever we think and do, and we present to this horse, they're going to think and do as well. Well, we're becoming something, vibrating at a lower frequency or a higher one, and going to the polar opposite. So law of polarity, and we'll touch on that. If we're operating at a frequency, a vibrational frequency, thought, an emotion, and an attitude and an action, and presenting to our horse, they're picking up on that internally, externally, from us and within themselves. So if I want a calm, quiet, thinking horse, I've got to practice consciously being aware of calm, quiet thinking. If I want to present calm, quiet actions to my horse, I've got to think it, do it, become it. Now, there's some other laws that are going to come into play, and I guess I should kind of talk on them as well to keep it simple. Consistency of doing that, we're going to create a habit. And that actually goes into character. So if I think and do something enough, create a habit, that habit defines the character. So if I want a calm, quiet thinking horse, a calm, quiet responding to questions horse, and to be his character, I've got to vibrate or operate at that frequency, present it, observe the feedback, make changes here, present again, to create the desired initial thought with intention of action, law of action, and then observe feedback. So this law of vibration is a give and receive. Give and receive. I'm going to give something, receive something, give something, receive something, rather than a give and receive and take it, it stops. The ego self would stay there. We're trying to climb in the higher levels of consciousness. We want to go higher. And in order to do that, what I've found is I've got to check in with myself. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What are my attitude? What are my actions? Present that to the horse truthfully and honestly. Observe feedback, make changes, present again. Why? Well, if you understand law of vibration, if you vibrate at a level long enough, scale of 1 to 10 to keep it simple, if you're vibrating up in an 8 or a 9 or a 10, and you're constantly presenting that to your horse, and see, I'm not trying to say this is good or bad. I'm trying to say develop an awareness to it. If you're keyed up and you're high energy, and you're all constantly presenting that to a horse, and he becomes that, but it's undesirable in what you want from him, you've got to make a change. You've got to lower your thought vibration. You've got to lower your action vibration to where he picks up on the change. And then he can give you the feedback that hopefully you're desiring. And then you can operate there. It's a really cool thing. In my book, I talk about you'll max out your 5 senses in the human form, and you'll tap into the 6th sense. Well, it's the higher consciousness. You'll gather information that you otherwise would not be able to gather had you not consciously developed an awareness to that it even exists or is available to you, and then accept it. Know that it's a beautiful thing. Utilize it to your ability to create the relationship you want in your horses. So a brief story, this guy, he pretty much goes to whoever, basically he mimics or mirrors whoever is presenting information to him. When they make changes, he makes changes, and he's just real good at that. And I love that about him. So if you come at him at a 10, he's going to respond at a 10. If you come at him at a 2, he responds at a 2. And it's just pretty much nanosecond, instant. Now, over long periods of time, he's developed ability to adapt to people and maintain, or self-regulate, I should say, and then help that person come to him. So that's a beautiful thing. You got a person that's kind of high energy. He comes up to there, but then he'll self-regulate and he'll bring them an awareness to themselves that they're too high of energy. You know, they're moving too fast, too soon, backing up questions. You know, he's responding as he's an overachiever, so he's responding very quickly. Well, it gets them to see, like visually see, take in energy, take in information, change their vibration, present again, and then see the results nanosecond. It's a beautiful thing. Horsemanship, horse-human relationship. In the grooming for mindset that I do with every horse before we ever go and play with them, ask them questions, we're setting up that vibration. We're setting up that thought vibration and that heart vibration. We're setting up that energy to where it's not restricted in the mind. We don't want any confusion, doubt, anxiety, fear, none of those things we want. So in grooming for mindset, we consciously say, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What is my attitude? What is my action? What am I presenting to this horse? How is he responding? I'm talking when I'm brushing them, spraying them with fly spray, tacking them up with a saddle, whatever it is. I want to present something to the horse, not label it good or bad, not even label it positive or negative. Just want to consciously present something to him and then watch the feedback and then realize, okay, that was probably a negative. That was probably a positive. That was probably too high on the 1 to 10 scale. It's probably too low on the 1 to 10 scale. It doesn't really matter. What does matter is you're aware of the feedback they're giving you based on what you give. Because from the first video, how I perceive myself and how the horse perceives me may be really far apart. I get bogged down with like, oh, well, they're going to think positive. Well, it's a struggle, and we don't want struggle. We want flow. You know, we want to develop a skill and some experience, and then accept the challenge that's we're capable of accepting. You know, you try to accept too big of a challenge, you know, it unravels pretty quickly. You know, fall into that anxiety, you know, nervousness, and that's not what we want to present to the horse. So we slow down. We think, we follow an interactive system to get desirable results, which I created in the 5 levels of communication. So grooming for mindset, that's going to allow us to check our vibration, check our thoughts. What are they? Are we stuck in a thought pattern that we don't want? You know, is something dominating our thoughts that we don't want? Well, we have the ability to change. How? Think of something you do want. Bring yourself into this moment. Generally, dwelling on the past is going to be what creates that dominant thought pattern that you don't want. Anticipating the future, dominant thought pattern you don't want. You got to cause a gap in that. How do you do it? Well, you bring yourself into the present, present something to the horse, observe the feedback, make necessary changes, do it again. We call it a feedback loop. Horses are real good at keeping our attention, our focus, and helping us develop an awareness of how long we're able to do that. So establishing communication in horsemanship gives us an overview of ourself, definitely a mirrored image type experience. So it's pretty cool. No matter what, you can have the mind you want. You know, and in horsemanship, I focus on a strength-based training strategy, meaning I'm going to focus on all the good things this horse does. And that's going to remind my brain of how great they are. And then I start vibrating in a frequency that is attractive. And then the horse will draw to me by default, just in the thought. You know, if I'm like, man, I love how this horse is just standing here quiet, ground tied. I love that he's just breathing with me. I love that he's just looking around, kind of paying attention, wondering. I see him wondering, like, what are we doing? Maverick's been in the barn before, but I don't necessarily bring him in here ground tie and, you know, make videos. So this is kind of new to him, and he's curious. He's of a curious mindset, like, what exactly are we doing, Dad? And this is good stuff, because if you ever get into that what if mentality, like, what if I bring him in here and he runs out? Well, what if he don't? So some might call that a negative if he were to run out. I would call it a learning opportunity. You know, I've played with horses for so long, I can self-regulate my thinking and feeling and attitude and doing action to where I'll look at things from different perspective, as we talked about in that first video. When you look at things in a different perspective, you get a superpower. You start to gain control of yourself in any situation because you have the ability to vibrate at a frequency you want to where outside influences have little to no effect in interrupting that. So that law of vibration is very cool. It might be the single law that I would definitely say explains a lot of the other laws. It's one of those that contributes to a deeper understanding of why those other laws are important and why they work. You know, law of cause and effect. I just need to give him a little hug. So tension in the mouth was just released in him. You know, it's whatever the thought goes on in this horse's mind, it has an effect on his body. So I just took a deep breath and tried to hide it, but he took a deep breath and I'm pretty sure you heard it. So it's one of those things, the synchronization will happen in us. What I'm thinking and feeling and doing, he's going to be thinking, feeling, and doing. And whatever I'm thinking, feeling, and doing, I become. Whatever he's thinking, feeling, and doing, he becomes. This is a pretty cool example of that law of vibration. Because if I'm consciously vibrating at a frequency, my mind, my body, he's going to either draw to it or repel from it. That law of polarity, you know, positive and negative, good, evil, expand, contract, all the examples of the law of polarity, law of vibration. You know, those are really important to understand. So if I'm presenting to him something and I can observe feedback and make changes, I can grasp the understanding of that vibrational frequency I'm thinking, feeling, what his is going to be. And when he draws closer to me, we get stronger in that. We get recognize it quicker, recognize it easier. It's just through habit. And when we form a habit, we create that character. So in repeating a lot of these things that I've already said in this video, it stands for reason. That's what you're going to do when you communicate with a horse. It's basically a broken record. You're going to present, observe, make changes, present, observe, make changes. It's a give, take relationship. It's a give, receive relationship. You know, I'm going to give, take, receive, give, take, receive. He's doing the same thing. That's a circular feedback loop. So you don't want it to be intermittent or interrupted. You want it to flow. You know, and as we do this in law of action, we will get it into flow. And it is a really interesting thing when those harmonize or agree, those vibrations harmonize and agree. And then when something changes, you feel it. You notice it, you can see it, you notice it, and you think about it, but then you feel it. Especially when we transfer in level 3 up to their back. So I'm sitting on the back of this horse. It's body to body. His legs are extensions of my body. Every hoof beat is a vibration. Every expansion of the hoof and contraction is a vibration. It's sending information. It's explaining a lot of things. As we're moving, you know, law of vibration is motion. So as we're moving, we're creating something. Whether you want to label it good or bad, you know, those are not necessarily need to be explained yet. We need to have an awareness. So if we interrupt any of that, let's just call that a negative or a bad because it's an obstruction in the transfer of information. So as an example, if I put a horseshoe on this hoof of this horse, it's metal. It's going to change the vibration of that hoof. He has shock absorbers in his hoof. And when that hoof hits the ground, it absorbs the percussion of the hoof beat, transferring energy up the leg. If I put a steel shoe on that, it changes that. It's cast in steel, so the expansion and contraction of the hoof is changed. The vibration has changed. The brain monitoring body systems probably would notice something of that significance. We use equipment to not interrupt our horses. So just as an example, I don't put shoes on my horses. Heck, we live in sand country. But in Colorado, for 13 years in the mountains of Colorado, none of my horses had horseshoes on either. They adapted to their environment, callous to the terrain. The wild horses don't, no one goes out there and puts horseshoes on them. So natural design, laws of nature, those are respected and utilized for self-preservation, which is a very strong law of nature, and long-term sustainability and to survival. So, interrupting vibration, just having an awareness of it is real important. And then what are the, what's the cause, what's the effect in that? So putting a bit in a horse's mouth, none of my horses have bits. All these bridles you see behind me, they're bitless bridles. I don't want to interrupt this flow of energy transfer, information transfer, this law of vibration. What am I thinking and feeling, presenting to my horse? And uninterrupted, I want the truth, I want the feedback. So if he doesn't have anything obstructing that, as a metal bit in his mouth to cause pain, where his thoughts go to that, rather than his thoughts going to me, or his brain using energy to monitor body systems, on the law of energy conservation, I don't want him thinking about a stressor that's interrupting the flow, the flow state, which we'll go into depth on that in future videos. But outside influences have little to no effect on our feedback loop if I don't put unnecessary outside influences there, for one, but also when they do arise, I don't look at them in a negative. So as an example, if I put a bitless bridle on my horse and I don't have spurs on him to interrupt our feedback loop, but an outside influence out of my control comes into play. If my thought goes, oh, that's a negative, I want to focus my energy on that. Let's just say it's a trash truck and we're riding into town. And I look at the trash truck, so I just disengage from our feedback loop. I change the vibration, thought, emotion, attitude, action. And I went to the trash truck. I took energy that he was feeling in our feedback loop, he was aware of, and I'm aware of, and I took it away, or I changed it. Took my attention over to the trash truck. My thought on the trash truck might be negative. My vibrational changed. My body changed. Inputs to the horse changed. Feedback from the horse changed. Now, in understanding that, I have the ability to correct it, self-regulate, like, okay, it's just a trash truck, it's not a negative. I'm aware of it, but I'm going to bring all my energy, my attention, my vibrational frequencies back to my horse. I'm going to think, do, present, observe, make changes, think, do, present, make changes to my horse. It may be mechanical, it may just be thought. At this point in my life, a lot of times it's just thought. Horse will look up to me, I'll look to them. I might take a deep breath, they might take a deep breath, and we walk on. It may be in need of a left hand asks for a little tip of the rein to have them look at me, and I give them a right leg if they're kind of shifting away from the trash truck, or a left leg to just gently say, hey, I'm here. Those are the things based on the individual that you would do to maintain that harmony, which is agreement, and balance, which is not too negative, not too positive, in the vibrational frequency. So in explaining this as simple as possible so that you could understand, whenever we think, it has a vibrational frequency. Whatever we feel and do is measurable. The horse is sitting there receiving those transmissions. Basically, he's measuring them, And when they change, he notices the difference. He'll give you the feedback so that you can know the difference in what you're thinking, feeling, doing. When you can maintain the feedback loop for an extended period of time, that's advancing up into level 4. We're going to talk more about that in depth too. And then ultimately level 5, which is infinite. You go do whatever you want to do with your horse anywhere you want to go do it, because you've developed an awareness and an ability to maintain the feedback loop in any situation. A lot of people come to the school here and they say, hey, I want to train my horse to X, Y, or Z, a deer, a mailbox, a trash bag, it doesn't matter, a bicycle. I heard it all. I try to explain to them, okay, look, we can do that. We can throw anything and everything you want at them. It's going to do probably no good unless you have an interactive system for desirable results in place. In other words, you have to have the ability to communicate and maintain harmony and balance in your horses in any situation, regardless of what they are. It's not something that I would want to even attempt if I didn't have an interactive system for desirable results. Getting a horse in a trailer that doesn't want to get in the trailer, I can't maintain a feedback loop with the horse away from the trailer. It's not really going to benefit he or I to try to throw him at a trailer. So hopefully this is making sense to you. And I'll just run over those 5 levels of communication and horsemanship so that maybe it will make sense. I've got to learn this individual, learn about this individual. I've got to know everything from nose to tail, hoof to ear on what this individual needs to understand what it is I'm presenting and have a realistic expectation of the time frame that we could get it done. How do I find that out? Well, level 1, grooming for mindset. I've got to get my mind and my emotions right, my attitude, my action, and present the best version of myself to the horse to get a realistic expectation he'll give me his best version. So if I'm not in control of myself, it's going to be really tough to ask a horse what I want and desiring what I want. So once we develop grooming for mindset, an understanding of checking in here, presenting there. I mean, grooming, basically it's mechanical grooming. Am I going too slow? Am I going too fast based on this individual? Am I moving around him calmly? Am I relaxed? Or am I bracy and rigid and expecting him to be calm and relaxed, but he's bracy and rigid? I'm just got to find out how he's perceiving me based on how I perceive myself. Am I coming at him at a 2, and thinking that I'm at a 1, or am I coming at him at an 8, a scale of 1 to 10, or am I coming at him at a 2? And what I'm trying to say is different horses are different. So my 1 might be his 4. My 2 might be his 8. My 10 might be his 2. Different horses are different. So grooming for mindset, we start to set that tone of understanding. This horse, I can tell you he's sensitive. So comparing him to another horse, my 5 on the other horse won't get him to do much. My 5 on this horse, he'll jump out of this barn right now. So that's what I'm trying to explain. We've got to kind of realize on a scale of 1 to 10 what we're presenting to the horse, and then observe that feedback. If you're drifting off in the past on another horse or another topic, or you're anticipating the future on another horse based on another horse or another topic, you're not in this moment. You're not giving this horse 100% engagement in this moment to really give him something true and honest. Now, you might say, well, it's true and honest. I'm in the past. Well, yeah, but you don't have much control over yourself if you're in the past. You'll bring that up into this future and present that to him. And a lot of times that is not a desirable result. So that's what I'm trying to explain in this law of vibration and how we can analyze it and really understand what it is. Bringing ourselves in, looking inward checking out what we're thinking and feeling, and then taking it outward, attitude and action, we're going to get the truest form of feedback from them. I really love this law of vibration. I really struggle explaining it sometimes because, man, I've heard other people explain it and it's talking over my head, guys. So hopefully this makes sense to you. I want to give you something that you can practice with your horses. So you see these yawns? He was licking my hand there. He's a horse that's very clingy, seeks comfort in being close. How did I discover that? Well, getting back to those 5 levels of communication, I explained grooming for mindset. Level 2 is established communication with a 5-part series of 5 questions I'll mechanically ask any horse to get a deeper understanding of them, allow them to get a deeper understanding of me. But the beautiful part is he gets a deeper understanding of himself in the human element, and I get a deeper understanding of myself in the horse element. So it's just a circular transfer of energy between horse and human, horsemanship. So in asking him those questions, I discovered, wow, he's a clingy type horse. He wants to be with me, which is beautiful. I want them to want to be with me. Now, I don't want him so clingy that he's pushing me over and getting on top of me and becomes dangerous and undesirable. So we can set boundaries through time, communicating. But I learned that, wow, this little guy, he really feels comfortable being with me, which is a valuable asset whenever I have a student on his back and they don't know what to do, and the feedback loop got interrupted to the point where he got confused. He doesn't know what to do. He draws to me on the ground. So I can put 7-year-old kids on him, maintain that law of vibration where I'm sending recognizable energy to the horse in thought, emotion, attitude, action, observing his feedback. So the student becomes cargo at the time, and I can draw him to me, reset, go again, maintain harmony, balance, safety, and get the desirable results we want. That 5-part series is how I discovered the depths of this individual and every other horse I've ever played with. I'll ask them these 5 mechanical questions to back up. Is he willing to back away from me? Does he shoot out away from me? What amount of energy, vibration, do I need to utilize to get the desired result? Scale of 1 to 10. Do I send high energy, low energy? My 2 is it his 2, or is my 2 his 6? He's very sensitive, so my 2 might have been too much. I need to back that back down to like a 0.5, and then it's like, oh, that's desirable for this individual. But if I want the same results on a different horse, I might have to go to like a 3 at an energy level, and then they respond the exact same way. So it's being willing to change. Being willing to change in the thought and how your perspective is on the thought. So this horse, some people might say, oh, he's too high energy. That's a negative. He won't work for what I need. Well, what if we look at that horse, and instead of labeling that as a negative, we look at it as an opportunity. So we just changed our vibrational frequency on that thought. Like, oh, that's an opportunity for me to learn and grow and develop to help the next horse if I can definitely help this horse, or help the next person if I can definitely help me help this horse. So you get to start feeling what it is to change yourself. And then you'll find what works on one horse works on all horses, as opposed to not being willing to change. And it worked on 7 horses out of 10, and the other 3, they failed your ego self-test. So being willing to change and go to a high level of consciousness works for all, because it's true and it's honest. And it's something that you're willing to change for the betterment of the horse, and the betterment of yourself, and the betterment of your clients, and the betterment of everything else in your life. Your health, your wealth, your relationships, your happiness, your spirituality, all of these things. So what if? I'd like you to look at that question, what if? What if it could be better? You see something happens. Your mind starts to drift to the negative. What if you caused it to go to the positive? And then you practice it. So each event that happens, you practice that and it becomes stronger. You exercise a muscle, you exercise something you already possess, and it gets stronger. You'll have superpower. You'll have the ability to communicate on a level that most will never even get a glimpse of. You'll have the ability to reach into nature and gather these beautiful gifts that it's ready to reveal to you and utilize them to only enrich yourself and the lives of others, horses, humans, anybody you come into contact with. Your earth gets better. More good will come from climbing that ladder of consciousness, willingly changing to climb that ladder of consciousness. And the way I found out how to do it is practicing horsemanship. So the one last thing before I close this off, the can or can't mentality is a law of vibration. It's the will or won't mentality. So if you can, you will. If you think you can, you will. If you think you can't, you won't. It's just that simple. The only way that I've ever been able to prove that is in horsemanship. And then now I can prove it in other areas of life. But the quickest, most streamlined way to show someone else is with horses. Because if you come in with apprehension and you start engaging in a conversation with a horse and you follow an interactive system that I designed or one similar, you start to develop an awareness. It's a skill that everybody needs in life. Horses, they have it, wild ones especially. You will learn a low vibration is a can't. A higher vibration is a can. Horses vibrate at a frequency. They will draw you to that frequency when you need it the most. That's the therapeutic value of horsemanship. That's the toughest thing people try to explain. Me, I'll just tell you, I've tried to hear my own students, clients, try to explain it to me. But in developing that awareness and that understanding, you will grow in a ability to make choices you otherwise wouldn't have had. And that's what's beautiful. You know, horses help us learn that. They help us tap into that. And I'm going to give him a belly scratch because he just really likes it. And then he's like, yeah, right there. You got 10 minutes to stop this. So that's rewarding. You know, we want to always reward our horses. So that's rewarding for the horse. We always want to reward our horses. Now, he's standing here to make these videos, and it's got to be a reward in some way. You know, standing here ground tied, that's a benefit to him because he gets to just relax, hang out. I rub on him, and you know, how long do I expect him to do this? You know, not a whole long time. So we'll get on with it. I don't think I forgot to say anything. I think I could close with this. If you understand oneness, when you start to really understand oneness, you know, I've been on the back of horses for 6 hours at a time. And the best way I could explain oneness is when you're in flow state, which is operating in a feedback loop for extended period of time without anything affecting it outside influence wise. I was very fortunate to be able to do that in the mountains of Colorado where there's not a lot of distractions, especially man-made ones. It gets kind of tough here in society. I'm closer to a town now. I hear a lot of the town noise, car engines, motorcycle engines, airplanes, helicopters. I hear one now. So those can be kind of interruptive. But if we look at it as like, okay, that's an outside influence that could interrupt my feedback loop, but I look at it as an opportunity to strengthen my ability to maintain this feedback loop regardless. That's pretty powerful. It's equally divine when you can look at a situation and understand positive and negative have to play into it equally to create whatever it is we want. And without that understanding, you might just walk around complaining about everything. When you learn to compliment over complaining at almost every situation, of course you're going to have a bad day, you could call it, but it'll be short-lived whenever you can realize, well, I can look at this from a new perspective and realize that this is something just equally as beautiful to let me know that I am ascending in the level of consciousness that I want. I find that just marvelous, and that's what life is, marvelous. So love, it's a verb. If you want to love your horse, you think and do things to create the relationship you want that is going to be mutually beneficial to both of you and enrich both of your lives. And then you just repeat it enough to create a habit, and that will become your character. That will become your horse's character. Well, thank you for your patience and being the star of our show today, Maverick. You did really good, buddy. You did really good. Yeah, I know. I'm proud of you. All right, so you stay right here, and I'll turn this camera off.